Hello and welcome back to another episode of Diablo 2 D&D. My name is David, and today we're going over the Sorceress. But first, I want to keep you updated on the campaign. So, Radaman's Lair is continuing on. I've got them going through, I think, one more encounter before the final boss. But this last encounter was a ton of fun. They had wandered into a dead end and started to explore when the paladin passes this drainage pipe in the wall and sees a body that's stuck in it. He's like, okay, that's weird. Does a medicine check and finds out that it's very much, well, not dead or alive, but undead. And the mummy drags itself out and initiates the fight, and then people start charging up to help him and start getting attacked by skeletons that pop up out of the water. After a while, anybody that passes an alcove that was in the wall, this zombie falls out and attacks them. And then nearing the end of the fight, at the end of the dead end, the tunnel had collapsed. This ghost comes forward and screeches and scares everybody. And the poor necromancer ended up aging like 20 years. Well, I say poor, but yeah. But they're doing really, really well. They managed to handle, I think it was like 5 or 6 skeletons, 4 zombies, 2 mummies, and a ghost, I think is what the total count was. And this is after 3 fights, and they not really breezed through it. There was some damage, but ooh, man, they're doing really, really well. So that means that either 1, they're way too powerful, or 2, they're just really darn good. And also because I was rolling garbage the entire time, so like that, I'm sure that helps. Anyway, let's get on to the changelog. So there is a handful of changes this week. The Necromancer's Summon Mastery now adds an additional damage die rather than the proficiency. I figured that the flat damage was a bit much, considering that you are doing a ton of creatures. So just adding an additional d6 or a d4 instead of a flat number would be way, way better in terms of for balancing. The Paladin, this is less of a mechanical change and more of a visual. I know I said I wouldn't do visual changes, but it was important enough that I figured I'd throw that in there. Smite no longer adds your strength modifier in the text. The reason for this is it can be used as an offhand weapon if you're using 2-weapon fighting, or a main hand weapon, and it fits better with the other weapon's stat blocks. So when you pull up a weapon's stat block, it'll say that it is a 1d8 or 1d6 or 1d12 or whatever. But it doesn't give you the modifier for attacking. I think largely because it's just assumed that it's strength unless it has the finesse property, unless it's a ranged weapon, in which case it's dexterity. So just more visual cleaning up, but I figured I'd throw it in there because it is technically a mechanical change. The Assassin's Fade now affects all kinds of damage and saving throws rather than you pick one, or I think it only affected spells, but I figured, let's just give it the whole shebang. And it grants both effects if the same event includes both. So previously it said if you took damage or made a saving throw, then you got either resistance to the damage or advantage on the saving throw, but it didn't add together. So if you had like a fireball thrown at you, you'd have to pick one or the other. And this one gives you both. So it's kind of a mix of evasion and I can't remember the other one. The rogue has it. And then the Assassin's Blade Sentinel has been reworked slightly, mostly regarding control timing and pathing. So previously what it would do is you'd pick a point within 30 feet of you and you'd throw it out and it would patrol between its release point and that point. That had all sorts of different problems with it. So what I did is I just said you release it within 5 feet of you, and then as a bonus action, you can send it different places. It's much more like spiritual weapon, I think. I mean, it can attack multiple creatures. Anyway, it's a saving throw, but take a look at it. Let me know what you think. Sorceress. So the base class features are pretty interesting. You actually start off with 2 at level 1, and you have a subclass feature at level 18. But first, let's start with the base class features, the starting equipment and whatnot. As a sorceress, you gain the following class features. Hit dice is a 1d6. Proficiencies, you get no armor. You get a proficiency with dagger, dart, light crossbow, quarterstaff, and sling. No tool proficiencies. Your saving throws are intelligence and wisdom. And your skills are 3 from Arcana, History, Insight, Medicine, Performance, and Religion. Your starting equipment is a quarterstaff or a dagger, a scholar's pack or an explorer's pack, an arcane focus, and a book of world history. So the sorceress is very heavily based off of the wizard, the D&D wizard, not the Diablo wizard. Although there are a handful of different changes, I think the skill proficiencies are the only ones that are like seriously changed. And the book of world history, instead of a spell book, you get this just book. I wanted the sorceresses to be the more learned people of the world. So I figured, let's just give you a book of world history. It's just kind of flavor stuff. Saving throw DC is intelligence. A sorceress studies the weave of magic, so uses intelligence to fuel their power. The DC of any sorceress ability, spell, or ability is 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your intelligence modifier, unless otherwise noted. Now, I did say spell because you do actually have spells. As you'll see with Warmth at level 1, you've mastered the basics of thermal manipulation to augment your mastery of magic. You learn the Produce Flame spell. So Produce Flame, I think it's just you can summon a little ball of fire above your hand. You can throw it as an attack, or you can just let it be a miniature torch. But in addition to that, whenever you use an ability, roll a d10. If you roll less than or equal to your proficiency bonus, you regain a use of the expended ability. So Warmth just increases your mana regeneration. It's a really good ability, but the main focus in this is giving you some way to actually attack. Because if you didn't have any way to attack at level 1, you're just kind of a sitting duck. You don't have cantrips, you don't have armor, you don't have much of anything. So Produce Flame, it's the idea that you're kind of manipulating heat to help yourself. But I did get that mana regeneration in with that second ability. Also at level 1, you get Sorceress Insight. At first level, your study of the arcane results in occasional flashes of insight. Before you roll for an ability check you are proficient in, you can give yourself advantage if you don't already have it. You can use this ability a number of times per long rest equal to your proficiency bonus. So, yes, I know you're proficient, but this is like, I need to guarantee that this check is going to hit. And this way, it works. You need to make a persuasion roll. If you have persuasion from your background, then there you go. There's something that you can use. Or you need to recall information that you remember or that you had from a book that you read once. Give yourself advantage on a history check. It's a way for the sorceress to interact socially and be a little bit more helpful than just a 1d8 fire cantrip at level 1. Frozen Armor. At second level, you learn the spell Mage Armor and can cast it at will without requiring material components. While you have Mage Armor active, whenever you are struck with a melee weapon attack, as a reaction, you can have the attacker make a Constitution saving throw. On a fail, its speed is reduced by half and has disadvantage on attacks until it's the end of its next turn. You can use this ability a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. I should probably clarify that this last line here is only connected to this right here. These are all tied together. So here we have Frozen Armor. You get a little bit of defense. Mage armor gives you a little bit of defense, but melee attacks, they freeze the enemy. It's very nice. You usually put only 1 point into it, and you never go onto shiver or chilling armor, which I will get into later. But it's just a nice ability to have. You put 1 point in there, and you let your plus to skills bump it up, and it stays for quite some time. It gives you really good defense. It's really useful, really nice to have. Starting at 3rd level, you get a subclass. The subclass represents specialization in your abilities. Choose cold, fire, or lightning. The subclass you choose grants you features at 3rd level, and again at 6th, 10th, 14th, and 18th. Yes, that is 5 subclass abilities. The reason being is because the masteries, the fire, cold, and lightning masteries, are subclass specific rather than just a cold sorceress picking up fire mastery. Doesn't make sense. Kind of, because the base class has cold and fire and lightning abilities. It's kind of the hybrid, but then you're going to be focusing with that subclass on a specific ability or a specific damage type. Feat is the same as everybody else. When you reach 4th level, and again at 8th, 12th, 16th, and 19th levels, you can choose a feat for which you qualify. Telekinesis. When you reach 5th level, you learn the spell Mage Hand and can cast it without components. The hand is invisible unless you choose to make it visible. As an action, you can attempt to shove one creature or object within 30 feet of you. If the target is a creature, it makes a strength saving throw or take lightning damage equal to your proficiency bonus and be pushed 5 feet away from you. A creature can willingly fail this save, and you can choose to not deal the damage. If the target is an object that is large or smaller, is not being worn or carried, and is not fastened down, it moves up to 5 feet away from you. So the idea is, it's very much like the telekinetic feat. In fact, I would love to have just said you gain the telekinetic feat, but I figured, Tasha's Cauldron of everything, that's not basic rules. I'm not going to touch it. So instead I had to write everything out. But the thing I liked about this is that you can hit objects that are large or smaller and push them away. Like this is focusing all of your energies and just one large push towards something. You want to knock open a door. You want to push a boulder off a cliff. You want to push a creature off a cliff. You want to give your friend this, a boost, and they can't, they want to take the dash action, but there's something that's right next to them that could take an opportunity attack. You line yourself up, you knock them back, or you just knock the creature back. I guess that could also work. And then they run. So that's why you can choose not to deal the damage, and a creature can willingly fail the save is if you want to use it on your allies. It used to be a bonus action, but I figured that it would... I was giving you too much bonus action abilities with some other things, and I didn't want it to interfere with the Shadow Assassin's Psychic Hammer, I think, because those two are very, very similar. Now, granted, I could just copy-paste it, but then they have the literal same ability, and I want to have some measure of difference, but it's whatever. I'll deal with it. Let me know what you think. Enchant. At 7th level, you learn the spell Magic Weapon and can cast it at 4th level. You do not need to concentrate on the spell, and the additional damage is fire instead of the weapon's type. At 11th level, you can cast this spell at 6th level. You can cast this spell twice per long rest. Magic Weapon is a nice, very simple ability, a nice, simple spell. It just turns a non-magical weapon into a +1 weapon. And then at higher levels, it's +2, and even higher is +3. So the idea of Magic Weapon is, I have a quarterstaff, and suddenly, boom, it's now I can hit harder with it. It's kind of like Shillelagh, but not really. But Enchant is kind of that. It increases the damage, it deals fire damage, and it increases your likelihood to hit. And so, yeah, I thought it was a great crossover. Instead of having to write out every single one, this becomes a +1 weapon or whatever, or dealing an additional 1d4 fire damage. I figured, just here, give you a spell. You're a spellcaster, you should have spells. So at 4th level it is just a +2, and at 11th level it is a +3, and you can cast this spell twice per long rest. So If you want to, you can enchant your own weapon and then another player's, or have it over 2 encounters. It's fine. Shiver Armor. At 9th level, whenever a creature fails a saving throw against your frozen armor feature, it also takes cold damage equal to your intelligence modifier. Shiver Armor is different from frozen armor. It does a lot of the same things, but instead of freezing the target, it deals damage to them. But it's still melee. So what I did instead was I just mashed Shiver Armor and Frozen Armor into the same ability. Instead of giving you the option of, oh, you can freeze a creature, or, oh, you can deal damage, I just said, well, why not just give it both? We'll take a look at the chilling armor later, but it's nice and simple, and it works. It just works. Teleport. At 11th level, you learn the spell Misty Step. You can cast this spell 4 times per long rest. Misty Step is just 30-foot teleportation. Bonus action. It's really handy, really useful. Heck, people will take feats just to pick it up for once. Really nice, really handy. Great spell. Blaze. Upon reaching 13th level, your mastery of magic translates into explosive movement. As an action, you gain the following abilities. Your walking speed increases by 20 feet, and moving doesn't provoke opportunity attacks. Whenever you start or end your turn next to a creature, or move within 5 feet of a creature, you can have it make a dexterity saving throw. On a fail, it takes 1d6 fire damage. A creature can only take this damage once per turn. These effects last for 1 minute, or until you fall unconscious or willingly end it. No action required by you. You can use this ability once per long rest. Blaze is just a Chardalon's Stride. It is just a Chardalon's Stride. They do basically the exact same thing, but because a Chardalon's Stride is also is it Fitspin's Treasury of Dragons? It's not in the basic rules, so I can't use it, so I get to write it out. But the good thing is, because you have a handful of other concentration spells, it being written out means you don't need to concentrate on it. So it's actually useful. Chilling Armor. At 15th level, your Frozen Armor ability triggers on ranged weapon attacks as well as melee weapon attacks. Chilling Armor is just whenever somebody hits you with a ranged attack, it fires an ice bolt back. The idea is that, for me, I should say, the idea for me is now all 3 of these abilities are mashed into one. You have your Frozen Armor that can retaliate against melee attackers, but now let's add some damage onto it, and now let's add a bit of range onto that. So if someone hits you with a crossbow, yeah, you got them. It's a great survivability thing, and I just love the way that it worked out. Energy Shield. At 17th level, you gain the ability to sacrifice potential magics for damage reduction. At the end of a long rest, you can expend any number of uses of class abilities and create a ward around yourself with a number of hit points equal to twice the level of each expended ability. The ward lasts until the end of a long rest. As a reaction, when you take damage, you can add to the ward by expending a use of a class ability which takes as much of the triggering damage as possible. So Energy Shield is kind of a mix of the Abjuration Wizard's Arcane Ward and the Warlock's Tomb of Levistus. So whenever you take damage, you get this nice little block of ice. You get frozen for a turn. Can save your life, but your speed is reduced to 0 hit points. Or your speed is reduced to 0 for like an entire turn, so you can't do anything. Which sucks, but I mean, it's better than, dying. But that's exactly what the Diablo Energy Shield does. This is the core component of the Immortal Sorceress's immortality. It absorbs a ton of damage, has a long duration, and you can burn mana to keep yourself from dying. So when you look back at all of these abilities, you'll notice that there's a lot of abilities that say X times per long rest. In fact, there are 9 of these, and you can use them quite a few times. You're not interested in using Sorceress Insight, you burn it, and you get quite a few hit points. They're not temporary hit points. You can have those on top. Frozen armor, you're not really in melee range, and you're going to be avoiding taking damage as much as possible. Then yeah, go ahead, burn out your frozen armor, give yourself some hit points. Everybody has a magical weapon, just burn enchant. You don't want a misty step, burn that. You don't want to bother with blaze, burn that. And now you're quite significantly tankier. Now, I do want to note that this does not work with warmth. Warmth says whenever you use an ability, you are not using them, you are expending the use. So, I'm sorry, but you're not going to be getting those back. But I really like the way the energy shield is worked. It's kind of weird, the way that it's written, and I'd love to see it if it could be massaged a little bit more to make it better, more, not accurate, more, clear, I guess. But, it works the way that it is right now. At 20th level, you get an epic boon of your choice. Alright, let's jump into the subclass features, starting with Cold. You get Ice Bolt. Ice Bolt is just Ray of Frost. That's pretty much all it is. It's a damaging projectile that slows people down. There's not much to it. But you also get, at level 3, the Freezing Enchantment. Now this does bring in a little bit of Diablo 4, because the Diablo 4 Sorceress, you can put certain abilities, certain skills onto your enchantment bar, and you get benefits because of that. Like teleport turns your dodge into a short-range teleport with a little bit longer cooldown. But I thought, getting another cantrip at 3rd level is good, but wizards start off with like 3, maybe 4, and some 1st level spells. So I figured, let's just give you something a little bit more, kind of give you a bit more of what this subclass is about. Alright, Freezing Enchantment. At 3rd level, your cold damage, spells or abilities, reduces a creature's speed by half until the start of your next turn. If a spell you cast or an ability you use already reduces speed, use whichever is greater. There is a note to rework. It doesn't play well with Glacial Spike. Yeah, Glacial Spike is a little interesting, but we'll get to that. So the cold subclass here is telling you that you are going to be reducing movement. It's much more utility, not damage. It's great for kiting. Notice that that Freezing Enchantment is not a save. It is just a flat. You take cold damage from your Shiver armor, their speed is reduced. They take cold damage from your Ray of Frost, their speed is reduced. It's, like I said, it's great for getting away. That's kind of what this thing is about. Frost Nova at 6th level is not complete. I don't have anything written down. I don't know how to really do this. I know it's probably just like 3d4 or 3d6 cold damage or something like that. And that's basically it. In like a 30-foot area. But it feels kind of boring. But we'll see. Glacial Spike. At 10th level, whenever you deal cold damage with a ranged spell attack, the damaged creature and each creature of your choice within 5 feet of it makes a Constitution saving throw. Each creature that fails has its speed reduced by 15 feet. If a creature's speed becomes 0 this way, it is incapacitated until the start of your next turn. These 3, Ice Bolt, Ice Blast, and Glacial Spike, are all basically just projectile of cold that deals, that has some kind of special effect. Glacial Spike is I think it's a projectile that explodes, kind of like where is it? Fireball. We'll get to that one later. But it's an area of effect. So what this does is it turns your Ice Bolt, your Ray of Frost, into an area of effect that deals a little bit of speed reduction. It doesn't do damage. I might change that, but it doesn't do damage right now. So you can see where Glacial Spike and the Freezing Enchantment are kind of interfering, because this one says, oh, use whichever is greater, but this one just, maybe. Okay, oh, no, it's on the creature. It's on the creature, the creature that you hit. So, yeah, like I said, I might have to rework or tweak some things, but the flavor's there at the very least. Blizzard. At 14th level, you learn the spell Ice Storm. When you cast it this way, you choose any number of creatures within the area to make a dexterity saving throw rather than each creature. And you can cast the spell 3 times per long rest. Ice Storm is a 4th level spell. It has a range of 300 feet, and it's a 20-foot radius, 40-foot high cylinder centered on a point within range. Each creature in the cylinder must make a dexterity saving throw. A creature takes 2d8 bludgeoning damage and 4d6 cold damage on a failed save, or half as much damage on a successful one. Hailstones turn the storm's area of effect into difficult terrain until the end of your next turn. So this is a great spell to have, because remember, the Cold Sorceress is all about reducing movement. So since they are taking cold damage here, their speed's going to be reduced, and then it turns it into difficult terrain, which means that their speed is going to be reduced even further. So, I mean, if they have a speed of 30 feet, you hit them with the cold damage, your freezing enchantment reduces their speed by half, so they go from 30 to 15, and then they have to go through difficult terrain, which means they're going to be moving 5 feet, 10 feet, whichever one your DM decides on, and you can do it 3 times per long rest. I think it's pretty good. Blizzard in Diablo is very similar to that. It's basically, it's a blizzard. It's an area of effect that deals a bunch of cold damage, which cold damage, regardless of where it's from, just adds movement slowing and can freeze, but it sticks around. Cold Mastery. At 18th level, cold damage you deal ignores resistance. If the creature doesn't have resistance to cold, you deal an additional 2d4 cold damage. So, Cold Mastery is your capstone feature. All the cold damage you're dealing is now improved. Each of the masteries are a little bit different, even though Fire and Lightning Mastery do basically the same thing, just increasing damage. Cold Mastery can pierce enemy resistance. This is why Cold Sorceresses are so dang good in Diablo, because they don't just increase the amount of damage they deal. They can break immunities. This means that, you've got 100% immunity to cold damage. Well, I have 20 points into Cold Mastery, and suddenly you have minus 115% to enemy cold resistance, although I think it's reduced by 20%, so you're looking at, I think it's reduced to 20% of its original, so you're looking at, it's only 20%, but immunity, 25%, sure, but it's going from immunity to 75% damage of what you originally would deal. That is a huge difference. So cutting resistance is really good, and if they're not resistant, then it's mimicking that resistance reduction, so you're dealing an additional 2d4 cold damage. The Fire Sorceress, Firebolt. When you take the subclass at 3rd level, you learn the spell Firebolt. It's literally just Firebolt. Same name and everything. It's just Firebolt. Burning Enchantment. At 3rd level, your warmth becomes more powerful. At the end of a short rest, roll 1d4, then choose a number of expended abilities equal to the result. You regain a use of each one. So the reason why warmth gets more powerful here is because you have 4 different skills: Enchant, Inferno, Blaze, and Firewall, that all get better when you have a better enchantment, a better warmth. And so you're going to be putting points into warmth. You're going to have a better mana recovery rate. This way, on a short rest, you can get back some of those abilities that you've spent. You really like having Blaze around. You want to run really fast and run between enemies and deal 1d6 fire damage. Woo. Yeah, go ahead. Burn that ability. A short rest. You're regaining at least one thing that you've used. It's pretty darn good. Speaking of Inferno, I don't have anything at 6th level. In fact, I don't think I have anything at 6th level on Lightning either. Oof. Inferno is supposed to be a line attack. It just deals damage in a line. That's basically it. Firewall. At 10th level, you learn the spell Wall of Fire. You can cast this spell 3 times per long rest. Firewall is just a wall of fire. You throw a bunch down, and your enemies walk through it and take a ton of damage. Wall of Fire is the exact same. You throw down a wall of fire. Although this one, you can change its shape. Or not change its shape. You can decide its shape. A wall of 60 feet long, 20 feet high, 1 foot thick, or a ringed wall up to 20 feet in diameter, 10 feet or 20 feet high and 1 foot thick. And anybody that crosses between it, they take damage and fire damage and fire damage. You can choose one side of the wall to not deal damage. So you can throw it down like, we need to be protected, so we're going to group up together and drop it a ring all around us so the enemies that are coming in are going to be damaged. Or you can drop it right around them so that if they want to leave, then they have to take damage. The thing is, you're not going to be increasing the amount of damage that you're doing because you can only cast it at 4th level. But it's still pretty darn powerful. At 14th level, you get Hydra. There's nothing there, not yet anyway, but Hydra is such a darn good ability. You get this little kind of spiritual weapon or fathomless tentacle, a fathomless warlock tentacle, and it shoots little balls of fire, and it's so much good. I have a frozen orb Hydra Sorceress, and it is so much fun. You throw down a couple of Hydras, and then you just blanket the area with cold damage. It ends pretty much everybody. It's a ton of fun. But that's what I'm going to go for instead of, I know you guys are wanting the Meteor, but I'm going to end up going Hydra instead of Meteor. I'm sorry. Fire Mastery. At 18th level, you add your intelligence modifier to the fire damage you deal. Fire Mastery is just more fire damage. It's just more fire damage. So fire damage has a higher floor than lightning damage and a higher ceiling than cold damage. It's kind of that good middle of the pack, consistent amount of damage. So instead of adding another die, I decided, let's just make it a flat amount. Let's just add, your +5 to your additional fire damage. It works. It's more fire damage. Lightning Sorceress. Yay. Charged Bolt. Oh boy. So I have an idea of what I want to do with this, but I don't know how to word it, and I've worded it 3 different ways. I'm not going to read this. I'm just going to tell you what I want out of this. Because, oh boy. Charged Bolt is randomly directed bolts of electrical energy. So it is a cone because they do spread out. But the idea is that you have a certain number of charged bolts, which are represented by D4s. And you can focus all of those D4s onto a single creature, kind of shotgunning the creature. Or you can spread out the damage by choosing a number of creatures to take the D4s of damage. So you can have one creature take 2 charged bolts and one creature take another charged bolt and another creature taking another charged bolt because, I don't know, they're at 1 hit point or something like that. That's the intention, but I don't know how to word it because it's just, it's awkward any way that I do word it. But that's going to be your basic attack at level 3. Is just a cone, 15-foot cone, and dexterity saving throws, taking a little bit of lightning damage, or one creature making a ton of saves. And it's, by the way, individual saves. So you're starting off with 2 saves, each for 1d4 lightning damage, going up to 6 dexterity saves for 1d4 each. So you can, like I said, you can hit one creature with 6 dexterity saving throws and 1d4 lightning damage, or you can hit 6 creatures each with 1 saving throw and each take 1d4 lightning damage. Hopefully you get the picture, but like I said, there's 3 different variations of it. They're all worded differently. They do all basically the same thing, but I'm just going to move on. Shocking enchantment. At 3rd level, whenever a creature fails a saving throw from a spell or ability you used by 5 or more, or an attack you make succeeds by 5 or more, and the creature takes lightning damage as a result, increase the lightning damage dice by 1 step for that creature up to a d12. If dice are not used, it takes an additional 1d4 lightning damage. So what this does is it turns all of those d4s into d6s if the creature fails by 5 or more. So if the DC is, say, 14, and they fail by getting a 7, then for that dexterity saving throw, that 1d4 turns into a 1d6. So it's just a little bit more damage. It may be a little confusing, honestly, but it's a way for you to eke out just a little bit more. It does go up to a 1d12. You're not turning a 1d12 into a 1d20. Don't even go there. I like the way that the shocking enchantment is written. And I like what it does. But I don't know if it's thematic. No, it is thematic. Anyway, if you have any other suggestions, I am open to changing it. Because, I'm only one person. So, anyway, let me know what you think. Nova at 6th level is... It's just, probably 1d12. Or 2d12 lightning damage in a 30-foot radius. Yeah, sorry, no static field for you guys, but Nova is just Frost Nova. It's just an expanding ring of lightning damage. It's like Poison Nova on the Necromancer. It's just, you're the center of an expanding ring of damage, so not really all that. It has no other effect, just damage. Doesn't even slow like the Frost Nova does, or poison a creature over time. It's just damage. But Nova Sorceresses are also very powerful, so... Chain Lightning. At 10th level, you learn the spell Chain Lightning, except it deals 8d8 and jumps to up to 2 additional creatures until 13th level. You can cast this spell twice per long rest. Note, this might need reworking. The damage doesn't scale, only the number of targets. Chain Lightning is a 6th level spell, which is why its damage and number of targets is reduced, because you don't get 6th level spells until 11th level, and you're getting this at 10th level. Alright, let's see. You create a bolt of lightning that arcs towards a creature of your choice you can see within range. 3 bolts then jump from that target to as many as 3 other targets, each of which must be within 30 feet of the first target. A target can be a creature or an object, and can be targeted by only one of those bolts. A target must make a dexterity saving throw. The target takes 10d8 lightning damage on a failed save, or half as much damage on a successful one. And then it casts at higher levels. It doesn't deal additional damage, it just increases the number of targets you can choose. Well, that's just Chain Lightning. I have a Chain Lightning Sorceress, and it is a ton of fun when you have a pack of enemies, and it's just, it's so nice. You jump in, you hit them with Chain Lightning, and you watch this thing just bounce around multiple times, and it's like watching a tennis ball on crack in a racquetball court. It is just so much fun. I love it. But Chain Lightning here, because you're getting it a level early, the damage is nerfed, and you don't get as many targets until 13th level, where it would upgrade to its next, essentially spell slot, quote-unquote spell slot. Like I said, this might need reworking. The damage doesn't scale, only the number of targets. So it felt kind of wrong to just say, it only jumps to 2 targets until 11th level, which is just the next one. So I decided, you'll have that 8d8, because it's also, keep in mind, it has the possibility of jumping up to 8d10 because of that lightning enchantment, or the shocking enchantment. I'm not proud of this one. I think it could be reworked or tweaked. I really, really don't want to, write it out, because Chain Lightning is just Chain Lightning. So, Give me some advice. I probably will jump this back up to 10d8 and reduce it to 2, at least until I can really work this out. Thunderstorm. At 14th level, you learn the spell Call Lightning. When you cast it this way, it has the following changes. Damage can't break your concentration on this spell. It takes a bonus action rather than an action to call down lightning. You can choose a creature to make a dexterity saving throw rather than each creature in range of a point you choose. And the spell's center follows you. You can cast this spell twice per long rest. So Call Lightning is such a fun spell. It's only a 3rd level spell, but it's a bonus action that can deal 3d10. 3d10 as a bonus action. Oh, it's so good. So the reason why I have tweaked it just a little bit is because of a handful of reasons. Thunderstorm is such a fun ability. It's a nice passive ability. You could put 1 point into it and it's just fire and forget. You don't even have to be if you're in the if you're in the lightning skill tree, then yeah, just putting 1 point into it, and it's really nice. It hits one random creature within a certain radius of you every couple of seconds. I think the higher level it gets, the more frequent it is. So because it only hits one creature, I said you choose a creature to make a dexterity saving throw rather than each creature in range of a point you choose. So you're only dealing 3d10 onto one creature rather than 3, 6, 9, up to 12d10. And because it is a bonus action rather than an action, it's much less powerful. But damage doesn't break your concentration, which is really good, kind of that passive ability that Thunderstorm originally has. But also the spell center follows you. It lasts for 10 minutes, so you could potentially bring it with you in an encounter. So instead of having it just, there's a storm cloud right there that's randomly attacking innocent people under it, it's following you around, much like the Thunderstorm ability does. Lightning Mastery. At 18th level, anytime you deal lightning damage to a creature, you can deal an additional 1d12 lightning damage. A creature can only take this damage once per turn. So this is where you get your massive damage spike. It's only once per turn, but Charged Bolt goes from 1d4 to 1d4 plus 1d12. And if you can group a bunch of creatures together, suddenly that's a lot more damage. Your Chain Lightning does a ton more damage. Your Thunderstorm deals, technically a little bit more damage. But let's talk a little bit more about Lightning Mastery and lightning damage in Diablo 2. So, like I mentioned before, cold damage has a low floor, or has a decent floor, but a very low ceiling. The reason for that is because it slows creatures down. It's more utility rather than damage. Fire is, like I said, higher floor than cold, so it deals more base damage, but a lower ceiling than lightning, because lightning is all about variance. Look at that. Okay, Chain Lightning is 1 to 40. Lightning is 1 to 40. 2 to 4. Okay, sure. But look at that. 1 to 281. 1 to 272. You start maxing all of these things out, and you're dealing, this. Oh, okay, actually Nova has a fairly consistent damage. But the idea is that lightning is largely just a variable. It has a huge range of damage. But, if you're dealing 1 to 10,000, then you're dealing an average of 5,000 damage. You can see that Lightning Mastery bumps up the damage by 278%, whereas fire damage only increases it by 163%. When capped out, of course. But the reason for that is because fire has a better average damage, and so there's no variance. Or less variance, I should say. So Lightning Mastery adding an additional 1d12 means that it's increasing the damage, but it is that huge variance versus that Fire Mastery where you're adding a flat amount to your fire damage. You're bumping that floor up, you're bumping that ceiling up, but it's consistent. So that is Lightning Mastery. And that is the Sorceress. I love this class. I love watching my player play this class. Now, he does do, largely, because, we're only 5th level right now. But largely he does, I think, Firebolt, even though he's a cold sorceress, because, that Ice Bolt and Freezing Enchantment aren't really all that good. It's better for, broad open fields when you have somebody that's actually chasing you. So maybe the cold needs to be retweaked, reworked, maybe potentially something similar to that shocking enchantment where you could potentially, incapacitate someone. Maybe. Just let me know. Give me an opportunity to change the classes. And I think I'm just going to end it there. Thank you for watching. You can contact me at XenozFan2, that is XenozFan2, and you can contact the channel itself at Diablo2DND on Twitter and YouTube. I don't have anything on Reddit just yet, not for the channel anyway. For myself, I'm XenozFan2 on Reddit as well. But yeah, give me a shout out. Let me know if there's any changes you would suggest. And I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.